It's time now for This Week in Rock and Roll History, brought to you by Tom Tayback. Take a moment to stroll with us down memory lane to the good old days, those rock and roll gold days.
Hi, everybody. Tom Tayback here. Happy to be your tour guide going back to the good old days of soda shops and sock hops in the gym. Let's begin this trip by going all the way back to 1949. Elvis Presley brings home his 8th grade report card from Humes High School in Memphis. His mother's delighted to see an A in English, but not overly pleased with his C in music. 1956, the Elvis mystique is captured in Time magazine, where they summed up the appeal of his movements on stage as suggesting sex. Buddy Holly sees a John Wayne movie called The Searchers and comes out inspired by the Duke's often repeated line, "That'll be the day." This week in 1957, Sam Cooke records You Send Me. It'll rise to number 1 by December. Also, the Isley Brothers released their first record, The Angels Cried. It fails to catch on, but you can't keep a good group down. They'll go on to have hits in 5 different decades. 1958, Jerry Lee Lewis renews his wedding vows with cousin Myra Gale. He wasn't really divorced from his second wife when he and Myra first tied the knot. 1959, the Battle of New Orleans hits the top of both the pop and the country charts. It stays there for 2 months, goes on to be one of the top-selling records of the year, and even wins a Grammy. 1961, Ricky Nelson hits number 1 with Travelin' Man. Also, Chuck Berry opens his own amusement park in Wentzville, Missouri, near St. Louis, where he grew up. He calls it Berry Park. It features a swimming pool, Ferris wheel, and a petting zoo. 1962, Let's Twist Again gets Chubby Checker a Grammy for Best Rock and Roll Record, and Hit the Road Jack gets Ray Charles a Grammy for Best R&B Record. He's also sitting at number 1 with I Can't Stop Lovin' You, making believers out of those who told him you can't release a country song on the pop chart. This week in 1963, 17-year-old Leslie Gore has the number 1 record, It's My Party. 1964, Love Me Do becomes the Beatles' 4th number 1 hit. The Dave Clark 5 made the first of 11 appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show. Going to 1966, the Beach Boys hit number 1 for the second time with Help Me Rhonda. It features lead vocals by Al Jardine, who was never asked to do lead vocals again. This week in 1967, the Doors released Light My Fire. It'll hit number 1 in just 2 short months. A young singer named Arnold Dorsey hits number 1 with Release Me. Of course, you remember him by the name his manager came up with, Engelbert Humperdinck. Aretha Franklin scores her only number 1 hit on the pop chart with Respect. And lastly, this week in 1968, Simon and Garfunkel hit number 1 with Mrs. Robinson, which was featured in the soundtrack for The Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman and Anne Bancroft. It also scores them a Grammy.
If this is your kind of music, you'll love my Rock and Roll Showcase, featuring trivia and stories about the rock and roll stars along with their charted hit singles at Podomatic.com or on YouTube. Podomatic.com or YouTube. Just search Tom Tayback. That's Tayback. Rock and roll is here to stay, baby.